There will be always economic issues, always talking about morality, but in the untouchable range, as American patriots, we do not touch public lanes. And that's kind of what I've learned that this project is about, is we are Americans together because of this, our great backyard, our great outdoors.
Nothing you do matters unless what you do matters. I'm Amadon DellErba, and this is Get Real or Die Trying. How we doing, tribe? Amadon DellErba here. Welcome to Get Real or Die Trying. And I am very excited to be sitting down with Jonathan Buford. He is the founder of Arizona Wilderness Brewing Company. I first met John about 13 years ago, kind of through the restaurant industry. We had a restaurant down in Tucson and spent some time with him, and I've been following his journey ever since. And the last, almost decade or so, I think I've been following you as you've been going around shooting the Arizona wilderness. There's about 90 designated wilderness areas in Arizona, and John went to all of them and photographed them. He's got his new book here. This just came out.
I'm not hawking this or anything.
Like a month
I'm not
ago.
paying this out.
So definitely check this out.
I just happen to have it sitting here.
You know, I've always been attracted to John. He's a good guy, and after seeing this project and my love for Arizona, being an Arizona native, and my love for nature and hiking in the wilderness and finding solitude and spirituality alone in the desert, and I'm just very attracted to talk to you about this process and all that you've been up to, and just catching up. We haven't seen each other for years.
It's been a while.
Yeah, man.
I feel the same about you.
Appreciate you sitting down with me, man, taking the time. Really means a lot.
And thanks for coming down. This project, I think, is an example of paying attention to the small cues of life. Everything's big and loud and excessive, and the small cues are there. And this thing, when I saw a wilderness sign in 2008, I was at the Chiricahua Wilderness. Everything was kind of fresh and new. I was a boy, if you will, and I saw this sign that ends up being the sign that I borrowed from the federal government for our logo here. I saw that sign, and past that point is the sanctity of wilderness. Yeah. And what that really was a small cue of this is going to be the rest of your life. Yeah. And so, I turn into a capitalistic venture here, but we try to do good things with our capital. We try to do what's best for our community. But my calling wasn't restaurant. It was wilderness. And as we find ourselves in these times where no one knows how to get along, I disagree. I think we all know how to get along. Yeah. Nature is the great leader. And it's you don't need a book when you have nature. It's already written. Yeah. So, I was told to do that. Or it was gifted to me, if you will. One day I just had this, and Arizona Highways has been such a great partner. They were the reason I got into outdoors, and Arizona Highways has been a blessing. So, that's how that got in front of us. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to dive into a bunch of stuff. Yeah. But as an Arizona native, I'm so proud of this, and because it's interesting, I go back to the East Coast sometimes and talk to friends or people and say I'm from Arizona, and they just think of Phoenix and desert, Yes. And they have no idea. Crow around a saguaro with the sun behind. Yeah, or like some dusty tumbleweed blowing across, just sand. And they have no idea how diverse and incredible and beautiful this state is. One of the most beautiful states, in my opinion, in the country. It is. I haven't been to all 50, but I've been to a lot. And it is absolutely it has everything but the ocean. And the ocean's not far if you're in southern Arizona either. We're the only state that you can see the ocean from without bordering it. If you're standing on Ajo Peak or Tenajas Altas Peak, you can actually see the Sea of Cortez. We're the only place. I didn't know that. Another cool thing. That's really cool. Yeah. That's a cool fact. I didn't even know that. But yeah, so we're going to dive into a lot of stuff, but let's talk about the book, since this is like the thing you've just been working on. You dedicated about 10 years of your life to going around. Yeah. It really was a COVID era, like, I'm going to do this, but I think the oldest picture is 15 years old, to be honest with you. Yeah, so you talked about seeing that sign in the Chiricahuas, which was probably the birthplace of Arizona Wilderness and the Brewing Company and so forth. Was there like a moment or a time where you had the idea of photographing all the wilderness areas in Arizona? Do you remember that exact moment, or did it kind of churned over time? Well, the exact moment, no, but the general moment, yeah. And sometimes I go big fish on some stories. Yeah, please. And embellish a little bit. And I try to tie this one to truth, because it's, even starting the brewery, like, when did I actually see the sign? And I invent this beautiful story that could be true. I'm pretty sure it's Chiricahua's 2008. I'm almost positive. But you know how it is. You're remembering, and you've talked about it so many times.
We have something in common with the Chiricahuas. I had a beautiful birth of an idea in the Chiricahuas too. I'll tell you.
That's
about
funny.
Next, yeah.
Yeah, that's Geronimo.
Yeah.
That's where those people.
Some heavy, beautiful, sacred energy there.
Yeah, and the idea of 90 was because of that moment in 08, moving forward, asking more questions about wilderness. And there was one particular book called the Arizona Wilderness Book. And it was like a little guide, how-to, decent photos. Wonderful little book, but wasn't enough for me. And so I'd flip through that. And when we were starting the brewery, I had named a lot of the beers in the beginning after wilderness series. Refuge is Imperial Refuge with a Fuma. We had Kofa Pale Ale. Kofa is one of my favorite wildernesses. And so, you know, it was always part of what I wanted wilderness to be, but there was something missing. And as I started realizing what's missing is I need a project. I need the ultra marathon, if you will.
Yeah.
All 90, but done the right way. And it was 2019 when I really realized that the restaurant industry isn't my calling. I'll be here for it.
Yeah.
I'll be a leader here for it, but I'm not wrapped up in capitalistic growth. It just eats at me and it never makes me happy. And unless I'm sharing the wealth, it just sucks.
Yeah.
So as I get into this whole 19, I was telling you, you know, I have a sober story. Even owning a brewery, you can be sober. And I just decided in 19 to call it quits. I always tell young men and women, but men in particular, tend to abuse things when it's free, when it's readily accessible, even like pornography, like all these things once they become free.
Usually things you have to earn, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Like you used to be an attractive male to earn a mate, you know, or something, and it's free, it's there.
Nice.
And you take
and so on beer and alcohol, it was
just there.
It was there, and I was a rock
Probably
star.
never had to buy a drink, even when you went to the breweries. Everyone's just, here you go.
And that's not a good story. And you hear Keith Richards talk about it.
Yeah.
The Rolling Stones were having a blast either because they don't remember much. And so I was on a new journey. So I had free time and I just no longer wanted to go to all the things. And then COVID came. So everything compiled into April of 2020 when I thought this place was over. You know, COVID was going to kill us as an entity. So I was ready for the wilderness journey. And I sat down with Kelly Vaughn. She's the senior editor of Arizona Highways. I pitched her the idea and they knew me and I knew them pretty well, but not that close yet. You know, I'd been on a cover or two. But man, I pitched it to her and it just, ever since that moment, there's not been except for the hard work I put into that. There's never been a tripwire, a landmine. There's, with the brewery, there's landmines everywhere.
Yeah.
With a restaurant, this was always, okay, the next process will be opened. It's like,
meant to be.
It just kept going. So 2020 was where I said, I'm going to go all in. And I made a lot of mistakes. True art, I think art's definable simply by anything filling the void of the canvas of nothing. If you're feeling that, you're creating art. True art, though, needs an energy and a mindset that isn't angry. And I got angry out there. You want that fucking photo.
Yeah.
And you want it, I'm backpacking with 70 pounds to the cover shots near the Grand Canyon at Saddle Mountain Wilderness. And it's a 20-mile rounder, and it's not fun in any way, shape, or form the way I was going at it. And I man, what a lesson inside of a lesson. Now I'm back to almost like an alcoholic. And I hit it hard, and I hit it too hard at times. And I had to take a step back and say, whoa, my job here's to document nature, not to show my ego. And so, the lessons were just there at all times. I always was learning inside of that book, and I still am. I'm telling people at REI the other night about this book. And here I am, like this avid REI guy. I'm in this room and these people are looking at me like I've done something. And I'm learning again. The ego's always like, hey, tell them how great you are. Tell them how fucking great you are. Tell them how hard it was. And I've had to go back and check it. No, this is about public lands. And I think in America, the number one thing we've ever done since the Constitution, so number 2, and ending slavery, so number 3, I can keep going,
Yeah.
The Wilderness Act of 1964 shows that America has strength.
Protecting the public lands.
And it said, who are we? Are we capitalists or environmentalists? And that was a stamp on we're environmentalists. And so when we're fucking up in this country and things are going crazy, it's because we're getting away from our environmental stance. We're the only place on planet Earth that has a doctrine protecting natural wilderness. Now, there are Patagonia Preserve, right? England has, all countries have preserves. They do not have a wilderness that says, no, you can't have mechanized vehicles in here at all. You can't, it has to, quote unquote, stay in its primeval state. That's what it says in the Wilderness Act. So, I learned a lot of lessons, but in the end, I've learned quickly that my gospel is to speak about wilderness in such a way that binds people together and realizes public lands are a shared entity.
Absolutely.
And we can get things right. When Congress hears from the state says, I think this is a good spot for us to preserve. And Congress says, let me review that. And the president says, that's what the people wanted because our constituents are representing us, being Congress. And the president says that it must be done. Lyndon B. Johnson didn't know what he was signing in 64. He did it because Kennedy wanted it.
Yeah.
Here we are today, 90 parcels of real truth. And we're lucky because it wouldn't happen today. We just burn it all and take the uranium out.
Yeah, Mark Twain said, buy land, it's the only thing you're going to run out of.
Yeah.
And I would say protect and preserve land because it's the only thing we'll run out of.
Absolutely. Well, we did buy land. We did.
Yeah.
The public did, and it's ours.
Yeah.
I don't like when the government wants to mess with it.
How about that scare earlier this year with a senator from Utah, Mike Lee, trying to introduce the sale of public land? You familiar with that?
Yeah.
All over the Southwest and Arizona.
Those are our
that was terrifying.
It was terrifying because it's the commander-in-chief right now hired a person on ketamine to fire everyone, and notably on ketamine. This isn't
a horse tranquilizer.
Yeah, this isn't a theory. He's announced it. To fire everyone and anyone. And so there was rangers being fired by an algorithm of a bunch of dudes sitting at computers who are firing through algorithm. Yeah. And so, when I hear that, plus firing for park rangers and eliminating people who are watching our public lands, you're kind of treading on something that I'm not a fan of, to say the least.
It's a lack of humanity.
I don't mind hearing why we should sell off in a democratic form. I do mind hearing the king wants this. Yeah. And that sucks.
Let the people decide. Yeah.
Right. And, famously, folks like Joe Rogan and others have a voice used it and said, don't touch my public lands. Yeah. And so you learn real quickly that we are flirting with a monarchy more than ever because the monarch goes, oh, they don't want it, and it's a PR statement. So, when Mr. Lee introduced that, it was a test to see what people. I loved it because it was almost a test.
People spoke up.
People said, "Don't." Hunters spoke up. Yeah. Backpackers spoke up. Yep. Your grandmother spoke up. Everyone spoke up and said, "Don't touch my public lands." And Paul Gosar's here trying to do it again in Arizona with our monuments, Bajnuate, and near your backyard. Ironwood is got a mining claim. Yeah. It's always up for grabs. And it's like, why is it up for grabs? So you start to look at the data too, and you're like, so we'd get some minerals out of the earth, very little. We'd create some jobs. So where's the win? Yeah. And it's almost combative against, it's almost that Republicans feel the need to be competitive against planet Earth. And I think that there's a confusion in there because Republicans don't need to act that way. Democrats, you still can vote with your heart. Yeah. So I'd like to see the centrist movement rise up a little bit here and say there will be always economic issues, always talking about morality, but in the untouchable range, as American patriots, we do not touch public lands. Yeah. And that's kind of what I've learned that this project is about, is we are Americans together because of this, our great backyard, our great outdoors.
And it's true, you mentioned that there's a lot of countries and places in the world that don't even have a designation of public lands, or where America is one of the few, and it's such a treasured thing, Yes. I think of John Muir, and throughout history, there's been people who really brought to the forefront of American consciousness the sacredness of land, and it's for everyone to enjoy. But the privatization, I think American culture and consumerism and greed, we're obsessed with owning things personally and owning and it's mine, and there is a beauty to owning your own land. I mean, I own, we own land, a lot of land, and it's nice to have that, but there's a sacredness in shared space where everyone can come and enjoy.
Absolutely.
National parks, and of course state parks in these different states. It's very important, and especially as humanity modernizes, and we think we're getting better, but we may not be. But we're all clustered into cities. We have to share that public space, that wilderness areas, those areas where it's not surrounded by millions of people and concrete and Wi-Fi and electricity, and that's the reprieve from the madness. You know,
absolutely.
To take that away, I think anyone who's really tapped into spirituality, human nature, they would realize that it's actually a detriment to even to the health, the social, mental, emotional, spiritual health of humanity. We're talking about America right now, but Americans, it's really not good for our psyche to not have that reprieve from the concrete jungle, so to speak.
It's Edward Abbey did it justice in Desert Solitaire, the book that I think everyone should read. Is one day we'll need to run from our government. And wilderness will be the only place we have, and it's kind of an irony.
And I was like you said, I was pleasantly surprised to see the uproar when that bill was introduced, and especially in Arizona. Obviously, I'm in Arizona, so I'm more tapped into what's going on in Arizona. But it was everywhere, on social media and people sharing and just very concerned. I'm like, I was happy to see, because sometimes I wonder, do people really value this beautiful land? But to see that every common Joe, like you said, the grandmother, the hunters, the people who camp, like they took a stand, and big public voices like Joe Rogan and others, with millions of followers, said, this is madness. Like, you can't do this.
This is an untouchable American institution that you're fucking with here. Don't fuck with it. And that's what we the people used to mean is do not change us because of your needs and desires. And it gets deep. You go to the root of why they want to mine. Why
and mining is such an interesting issue. And I've been fighting different mines in Arizona for the last 15 years. And down in southern Arizona where we are, we got Apache Stronghold, want to mine there, which is pretty much happening, which is a foreign company. It's an Australian mining company. Then
Freeport McMoran, right?
Yep. We got the South 32 coming into the Patagonia Mountains, which is an incredible area where
all the aerial
people recreate. And
that's a huge mine.
We've been fighting that. At the same time, I'm not naive enough and, stupid enough to think we can't live without some of these minerals. We're all using cell phones. We're all getting in cars, battery, and so it's a cobalt mine for, batteries and stuff. But like, what is the answer? How do we find these places and find the minerals in areas that aren't, I don't want to say as beautiful because that feels unfair to nature, but, less not able to recreate in as much, let's say. There's got to be places where we can find these minerals that's not so devastating. Like the Patagonia Mountains are just stunning, and there's so much gravel mountain biking and hiking and nature, and they're just going in there. And, we haven't been able to stop them. We've slowed them down. And, we're going to hold them to the fire.
Oak Flat obviously is on
Oak Flat's pretty much, that's been going on for 15 years. I'm close friends with Wensler Noisy, who's and he was on my podcast, and I've been down there many times and made videos and
I
tried
got to know him through this whole project.
And tried to make people aware of this. But at the end of the day, greed seems to win out, which can be discouraging at times. But goodness always does win in the end. But there is some temporary pain. Evil makes its way into things, and how do we? Because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm getting into a vehicle. I'm getting on my cell phone using those minerals, And so a true environmentalist, I was talking about this with my wife the other day. It's like, if you really want to be all in, you basically have to be Amish. You can't use anything.
I grew up in Amish country, Ohio.
You can't use anything.
Even they are conflicted.
It's like, so how do you,
You'll see someone in the Amish community, it's funny, on a phone or in a car, and you're like, I'm not only Amish out, but it's like, this is a temptation piece, right? You're talking about a cell phone where I can be in a tribe, I can now be in society, and I can be productive running a business. However, I would say there is a way out, and one of the things about wilderness that's unique is it's a display of nature and its systems. So when it rains, it comes down, the river carries the water to us, the seeds are pollinated by wind and birds and bees. It's all a system, so we did it. See, the Wilderness Act, you could not go to Patagonia Mountains if there were a wilderness. So that's why we'd like to propose some new wildernesses and new protections.
Protect them from the future,
And I strongly believe that if you love your backyard, you will always fight harder for it. And that's what I think the truth is. There is better places to mine, but Patagonia has a lot of these minerals.
Yeah.
So, these are things that are over my head.
Yeah.
All I know is if I were to go backpacking with the owner of Freeport McMoran and talk to him, all of a sudden everything changes.
Yeah. Show them.
We're removed from the wilderness in boardrooms, probably in Sydney, or, I think there's Chilean companies as well.
Yeah.
And they're in boardrooms and they're making decisions that are, just because we have a car doesn't mean that everyone has to have 7 cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there is a capitalistic growth that the world is on. So one cell phone and one computer versus the millions of chips that are being made in northern Phoenix right now to be a bigger, better economy.
Which is using tremendous water.
Yes, and we're looking at, when you're saying greed, we're looking at excess to please a board of governors, which is a stock
And to please
driven.
an unsatiable appetite.
Yes, and so it can be dialed back. For one, where we can start to dial it back is having a Congress work, which is crazy to say that 6 months into a presidency, Congress started to admit, we're not as powerful right now. And that's not my words. That's Congress people saying that. We need Congress to be able to vote on laws and say you cannot touch the Patagonia Mountains. And they're here to represent the people. I'm explaining democracy here.
Yeah.
That has to always work.
Yeah.
Because if we don't want the Patagonia Mountains to be mined into, we need a democratic process.
Yeah.
And so you would go to your representative and that person would say, well, a lot of you don't want this. I'm going to go to Washington and represent you.
Yeah.
And that fails, we all fail. And this country turns into what I've heard, condescending slurs about third world countries come from a dude's mouth who's sitting in Washington right now. Well, how that could happen here is we stop protecting our land.
Yeah.
We start creating huge mines. The mines create huge profits for anyone but us.
Yeah.
And here I am running a small business buying that stuff back at high prices like copper.
Yeah.
And nobody actually benefited. If we're going to mine, let's benefit the community. 10% of the mine must go back to the community.
Yeah.
And when I say the community, I mean the real people, the people in the community. Why don't we pass laws like that, Congress? Because then it isn't profit driven. If we really all need cell phones, what if the mine really is only about making us more productive? It's not. It's for making very wealthy people rich, sitting in an office who never saw that mountain. Do you think that the owner of Freeport McMoran's ever been on a gravel bike ride in the Patagonia Mountains?
No way.
Almost absolutely zero. So my long-winded answer here, what I'm saying is there is a way to do this. We all can have a little bit, but we're going to have to eliminate one of these things.
Yeah.
And it's going to be excessive capitalism. And I know the billionaires don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But we need to tax them 70%, get them back down to where we live.
Yeah.
Why have 15 houses around
We're
the
so
world?
out of touch with
What's
reality.
the point of that?
Yeah.
Have 2 or 3 if you really need to, but then you start to see the yachts and stuff, and you're like, what is a yacht doing for you?
Yeah.
It's just a display of wealth. And it's not what this is about.
Yeah.
This is about sharing the wonder that has been created for us.
Yeah, it's consciousness. All physical problems start in lack of consciousness in the mind and the heart, and even American culture and the masses in America, they need to come back to a more reasonable consciousness of consumption and awareness. And, we have to, train and educate and inspire people to have their voices heard.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's a democracy. It is the job of our representatives to hear the people's wants. And the people have to be retrained, I think, in some ways to know what needs versus wants, and be retrained to make their voices heard for what's important to them. And like I said, I was pleasantly surprised with the Mike Lee bill that some people did do that, and it came out and there was a huge uproar, and that's great. And that needs to continue to happen. Americans need to make it very clear to the government, whatever that is, the government, what we want, and we want our public lands. We want our space.
And we don't want a king.
Yeah.
I will not accept a king. And we fought to be away from a king. And I don't want to hear what one person wants.
Yeah.
There's 400 million plus of us. I want to hear what we want.
Yeah.
And if that's different than my opinion, democracy will win in the end. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And maybe your opinion worked more than my opinion. And we've gotten this far. And I don't always feel so ill towards America. I think it's a wonderful country. And we continue to do amazing things. And yes, we need to learn. But I found out a lot of truths on wilderness. We actually have had it under our feet the whole time. The outdoors and freedom that the outdoors gives us is actually what we're all missing. It's the truth. It's the missing piece in here.
Yeah.
The idea that we're part of a system that's not needing us. You release the ego. You do not need to be there. This thing doesn't need you. If we all passed right now, every human, this river will flow. We aren't used to that.
Yeah.
We're used to having to have someone in charge.
And controlling elements, controlling the environment.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing about nature is you have zero control. Zero.
You are
You
a speck of sand, and that's a thing that takes a minute to set in. And you see a rainbow forming, and you go, that's just a light prism. Like, this is all there all the time. It's a magic that is there.
Yeah.
And it's just always the southwest of America is the greatest place on planet Earth, and it's always been there. And so anytime someone's like, well, we need to be better as Americans, I would consider getting on the trail, small knapsack like John Muir. Don't take breadcrumbs and raisins like Edward Abbey.
Yeah.
Don't need so much, and find out who you are in the wilderness. And you'll find out that you're nothing.
Yeah.
And what's left, the skin and bones and the soul, and you'll find something deep in there who you really are, and you'll say, I kind of like that person. You actually might not hate yourself anymore. And what that is the wilderness in you.
Yeah.
There's 90 in Arizona, there's one in you, and you might find it, and it's scary and it's weird, and you'll be like, especially for men, it's gentle, it's not angry.
Yeah.
It doesn't need insatiable appetite. It doesn't need sex, doesn't need rock and roll. It needs to remain wild. And so, be careful if you step in the wilderness, because you might find something and you might become something.
Yeah.
Be careful if you're not ready for that. If you're too immature and you're abusive, I'd recommend maybe taking it easy on the wilderness, because you'll hear a roar.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to interpret that roar, you might go crazy,
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a beautiful thing I've contemplated a lot my whole life, really, but in the last few years, the relationship of wilderness and masculinity and the call to the wild. And I think all humans have it. Women have it too, but in men, there's an innate call to the wild.
Yeah.
And I think it's been silenced by the ease of modern culture a little bit, and men have to get back to that. And the relationship, it's humbling, and it's necessary for a man to surrender to nature, and to find themselves and to be tested, and to have elements and things outside of our control. Men, we want to control things. We want to dominate. We want to, be the king, so to speak.
And we've been allowed to for a long time.
Yeah. And in nature, you have really no option but to surrender. It's just survival. Like it will destroy you. It'll also bring you your most beautiful, elated happiness moments. It'll also bring you to your knees, and true wilderness, true nature, not taking a walk in the park, it's manicured. But, circling back a little bit to Chiricahua Mountains, I had a really cool experience in the Chiricahua Mountains a few years ago. That's too. Funny. Just hiking there, and these beautiful rock spires, and on the trail there was just one pillar. And at the time I had come up already with my brand for my men's work called True North Men's Development. And then every man needs to find his true north, his compass, and have that. And I have my opinions about what that true north is for each man, but it's different for each man. But there is some, absolutes about the true north, And I'm looking at this beautiful, just singular, thin, narrow pillar. And so then I had the four pillars of my men's work, which is direction, purpose, action, resilience. So you have to find your direction, you have to find your purpose, you have to take action, then you have to have resilience to stay the course. And these pillars, and this moment in wilderness, and so many of the revelations and beautiful, deep concepts I've received have been in nature, and usually alone, communing with nature. And thinking about masculinity and how we become so out of touch with reality as men, and that, like, for me, what I do is I bring men into nature, into wilderness, and into hikes, into connection with the land, and to grounding, because I think that's what humbles men. And you've probably experienced that yourself, I'm sure, in the elements. And I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Just like the relationship. What have you learned, and have you seen your masculinity transform and change with nature? Because I think that there's a beautiful symbiosis of, like, nature is really actually feminine. It's the Mother Earth and masculine. And so I think that men can learn how to be good husbands, good partners, and good men, good fathers, good leaders by developing a relationship with nature. And the more that humanity gets away from nature, the more disconnected we become from our masculinity. And even primarily and ancestrally, the man was living in nature, providing, hunting, using nature, protecting, creating shelter. They had to work with nature. And as we have the comforts of modern society, AC and buildings and this and that, we kind of lose that primal essence that makes us good men, and we disconnect from it. But in your process of going to some of these extreme climates and extreme wilderness areas, what has there been any, revelations or just deep impact with your relationship with your own masculinity?
I've thought about this being the second book, to be honest with you. Not this specific, but the hidden truths. I'm never going to claim I completely understand masculinity.
Yeah. Who can?
Right.
It's a pursuit.
And I certainly would never tell any woman that they're unworthy of wilderness. But I think we as men, and women in my life understand is there's nothing worse than abusing masculinity. Because there is a strength that comes with masculinity that is necessary and was necessary for building societies. But what I've learned quickly is women have outpaced men because they haven't had this trip up, and there's no competition. But I'm amazed at the brilliance of my wife and how little she trips over things that I just trip up over. And in wilderness, I've learned to back off tripping over something specific. We organize quickly over engineering. Men do. You get a group full of men and they're going to solve this problem. And they're going to put building blocks together. And it's an obsession that I had with wilderness here. I thought build, me, man, me, build. It's already built. And this is a humbling topic when you're out there. It's already been built. You're actually not needed as much as you think. And so does that mean you're being kicked out of society or the world or planet Earth? No.
Coexist.
What it means is tap into the feminine or beauty. I don't know if it's feminine energy of the wilderness, but the beauty, and learn to cry to it. And I think there's a masculinity in learning to weep at the beauty and saying, thank you for all of this. What the fuck is this? This is the greatest thing ever. I love that we can organize and be aggressive on organization, but I think that's part of the greed that this has helped me understand that I don't want 15 of these wildernesses. We certainly could. I could be in Tucson today with a very successful one. I could go to Flagstaff tomorrow. I mean, we really could. But what would that do to planet Earth? We won't buy new buildings. We only adaptive reuse. We will not bring in new minerals from mines to build this stuff. All of our waste is composted, turns back into soil. I'm sure you're very well what composting is. The way we pay people, the way that we our programs here, a lot of that came from me realizing this is already done. The building's already done. And what else are we actually doing? And you know what sim theory is. You can get a little lost in sim theory. Like it kind of feels like we're an algorithm. And if we don't reset ourselves to the basic algorithm, we become this computer generated version of ourselves who's like reading business books thinking they're so freaking smart. And I did that. I was like, good to great. Go Seth Godin books, all these great books. Yeah, they're helpful. Secret, running your business on intuition and you're going to do better. Small business, big business, those fucks need to please everybody under the sun. Intuition though doesn't come for free. And I think my teacher was the wilderness. Intuition is the wind blows, seeds in the wind. So there's not crop in one area, there's crop in many. The river carries silt for farms downfield. Intuition is knowing that those things are part of a system. You do not need to force nature. And a dam is the greatest analogy in American history. We are the great damming nation. No, dams were before us, don't get me wrong. But the New Deal was specifically to dam our great river, the Colorado. Look what a dam is, and then think about it. Think about it metaphysically, what a dam is. When you're taking something wild and you're calming it for the fear of not having enough later and entertainment, throw in Las Vegas. A lot of the damming was to get a sinful city. Think about that in your own life. And I have stood in the Colorado I looked at the Hoover Dam and went, what a modern engineering feat of men organizing and going build. And I thought about my own dams and my own truths of let's let that shit rip. And I did. And my wife wasn't unhappy. I think she actually was like, you're very gentle and caring. And I didn't try harder to be gentle and caring. I just found myself less important. This world does not need me, and I'm not that great. I have a lot of people around me with wilderness, hand in hand, making this work.
Yeah.
And I just really had to step back, and I still do to this day, and go, it's cool to have all of the things at my whim. Like I was playing guitar last night. I love music, and these fucking things manufactured by someone probably in Southeast Asia. I have a connection to that Chinese person. That's not how it's viewed, though. I view it as I own this guitar, I own this music, and I thought back to the wind or the rain pattering, and I went, that's music. We don't need me to play music for music to happen. So it all has been a great lesson of you better check yourself. Wilderness isn't only going to kill you, but it's also going to spit you out. And that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I hope that all makes sense. But
it's stunning. Yeah, I love it. I think, men are afraid of acquiescence and submission, because like I said, we innately want to dominate and control. Yeah. Nature, you're forced to acquiesce, and you're forced to observe. I think of some of the great authors in American literature, Walden Pond, Thoreau, spent 2 years just in nature.
Talking about a pond.
Talking about a pond and walking every day. And just like the philosophy and the spirituality and the gems that
a leaf fell in the pond.
Yeah. And that's where he wrote, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And such a concept that's true, and the fact that we as, and I can only speak for men because I'm a man. So, that's why I'm emphasis on men, because I can't pretend like I can speak for a woman, but
that would be a whole different podcast.
Yeah. But for men, it's, we need to learn acquiescence. And that's like, you're talking about damming. It's, I've been to Hoover Dam many times too. And it's just like, there's the part of me that's like, what an amazing feat. But then it's a lack of acquiescence to nature. It's us trying to conquer what's already flowing, what's already working, and to control. And that again ties back into the minds. We're trying to control something and dominate. And you talked about becoming more gentle and compassionate and these things that, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but you didn't go out thinking, oh, I'm going to learn all these things. It just happened, and you probably didn't even realize you were learning them, but it just manifested. You started embodying it. Like you said, your wife noticed, I'm sure your employees noticed, your friends noticed, your family noticed that you had changed and transformed through spending so much time in nature and connection.
Yeah, it's not all good. So I don't want to gloss this like, wow, I'm this changed perfect specimen.
Who knows?
Anger also came out of wilderness.
Yeah.
And anger is a dirty drug, and it's like addictive, and I was telling you off air, the addiction of getting the photo got real. And so, my wife noticed some good things, but she also noticed the obsession. Yeah. And you're displayed out. I think we all should be displayed out. Yeah. Introverts aren't real, in my opinion. Extroverts aren't real, in my opinion. You make a solid choice. Sure, we have different neurons and things that are bouncing around that act differently, but you make a solid choice on where you're guarded most. And sometimes extroverts are guarded more by blabbing, and introverts are guarded more by damming, walling. I think we should be splayed out to people we claim to be leading or running with. I think that's what's great about trail running. I think that's what's great about cycling. You're fucking tired, and that person knows you're... You're one breeze from blowing off the edge. That's why David Goggins is unique. He's so out there, and you're watching this specimen out there splayed out. Different, energy than others, right? Yeah. But I really like the idea of just saying and being who you are all the time. And that's where...
being authentic,
yeah. You know where that comes from, though. It's coming from talking to yourself, and that's the one thing about wilderness is it's not all about nature. Sometimes you need to be in a quiet room or a silent room to know who you are, because man, the worst thing about society is this fucking chatter.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're trying to be somebody in society, and that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
I bring up Elon Musk a lot because he could be somebody great. He could be this loving, beautiful person, but society makes him feel something.
Yeah.
There's a lot, Rockefeller was one of these.
So much potential to help others.
Yeah, and man, if you just spend some time hearing yourself off ketamine, off pornography and drugs and alcohol, you might learn something. And again, another truth about wilderness is the silence is the roar, and you'll start to hear your own thoughts and go, I'm frenetically fucking paranoid over my own thoughts. And then over time, you're your own therapist. Then you come back in society and you go, I feel a little better about the lack of results I have in my life,
Yeah.
When I say results, I mean a lot of it's capitalistic results. I'm going to go run. And I just started to run more. And I started to realize productivity doesn't have to have money.
Yeah.
I can learn new traits, like even working on my own truck. I know that sounds stupid, but because of the wilderness book, I had to work on my truck or I'd be broke.
Mm-hmm.
And you just learn these little productive traits that aren't resulting in capitalism. And I feel like that's another lesson that just really reached out and said, learn some traits, don't earn with them. Okay, I'll do that, and I just learn, I learn little things that I wouldn't have learned. It's survival, how to create a fire from nothing. Like those are cool things to know as a human. And I think that that's just never going to happen in a congested city. It's only going to happen when you're in nature, and it's fulfillment for me. It's not all perfect. It's not all you're going to come back this new person, but you will get to know you, which is the scariest thing of them all.
True. Yeah, the great Persian mystic and poet Khalil Gibran said most people are terrified of being locked in a room alone with themselves and God, It's terrifying to be alone,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, to me, there's just an attractiveness and a desire to be alone in nature.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable sometimes, especially if it's days, at a time, it's just you.
Yeah.
You're just there, and you just hear the birds, you hear the wind, and then you hear your own thoughts, and you're talking to yourself. You're talking to God, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care what people, people can debate about God all day long and stuff, but God is living, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, nature is the biggest temple, the biggest avenue to connect with spirit and the divine, and in that silence. And all the great prophets came out of the desert. It's quite interesting. And a lot of the spiritualists and people, they were in these harsh, extreme environments where you're forced to just go within, and you're forced to be.
But resources aren't readily available.
Yeah, and you're forced into that state of acquiescence, and surrender, and it's just really cool. Wilderness has so much to offer. And so, circling a little bit back here, so you founded this brewery in 2018. 13, sorry, 2013, and you saw the wilderness sign on the Chiricahwas. And it seems like the ethos of your, consciousness and the way you run your business has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And, for those who don't know, your brewing company blew up pretty fast, probably way faster than you thought it would,
Out of a garage in Queen Creek to best new brewery in the world.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden...
I didn't plan that.
Yeah, you're getting accolades, not just nationally, but globally, You're traveling and visiting other breweries and
admiration, things that I didn't have as a kid.
Yeah. And so what was that process of just kind of being surprised probably by going from entrepreneur? And I also read that, your first business when you moved to Arizona was a window washing company.
Yeah.
And you're just surviving, you came here with hardly nothing, drove an old 1988, vehicle here, and
$350 to my name. And I went to Milano Music and bought a guitar.
Like you said, you could have easily one of these in Tucson. Probably another one in the valley somewhere, one in Flagstaff, one in Prescott if you want. You could be distributing, everywhere. And I think that's an interesting concept too, that you don't really distribute. You don't have a distribution, which, from a business standpoint, well, that's really foolish. You could be distributing everywhere and make all this money and stuff.
Absolutely.
But you made a conscious decision, which I think has a lot of integrity and sacrifice, financially. But that ties into that money doesn't bring that feeling in you. Money's just money. It comes and goes. But you had
I just get Amazon and I get fucking Uber Eats. I'm not that great.
Yeah.
And I'm weak when I have money. I just buy things. I'm not like some prophet here. I make foolish mistakes. And the more money I have, I'm like, like, look, I love that I bought this unnecessary, I don't know, backyard set of furniture, but like, what did that, like,
Yeah.
so I did all of this to get a few things,
Yeah.
and I keep making foolish mistakes, and the only way you can act upon wisdom is to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And so Kate, my wife, and I are like, man, we want to buy things still and travel.
Yeah.
But the more money we get, the stupider my purchases are.
Yeah.
And it's something where I'm like, I don't want any more raises. Please stop. I've had to tell my team, you guys can get raises. I don't do well with money.
Yeah.
I want to retire on food and water.
Yeah.
and a house would be nice. But past that, I don't know if you know what I'm like.
No,
Make
totally.
any sense?
Absolutely,
you're
yeah.
just like,
And I feel like nature and the wilderness was a big part of forming that place in
that's
you,
all. That's
where you
all I
came
need,
to.
man.
Yeah, you just
That's the riches right there. It's better than a mineral in a mine is a mineral in the rock that I'm staring at with sun bouncing off the side of it.
Yeah.
That's the magic. And so I cut you off. Sorry, I just wanted to say I'm not that smart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what you are is aware, and a lot of people mistake intelligence and awareness is the same thing, but awareness is a different level of intellect. It's a different level of consciousness where when you become aware, you really are blessed by the people around you because you're aware of how your cook feels, how your janitor feels, how
a Mexican
everybody
woman who
feels.
came here became a citizen and working for half the wages of somebody else and never gets the praise is the true person to learn from.
Yeah.
And isn't that what all of our great, Jesus said that, right? These are the real leaders are the cooks in the back working harder.
Yeah.
And we learn from them.
Yeah.
How is your family? And you find out that you have a lot to learn from somebody who was lesser than you 5 minutes ago, and you go, oh my gosh, I fell for this whole fucking schematic where I'm the owner. No, I'm not. All I did was the first to the idea, and then I signed some leases. I'm not an owner.
Well, you're a facilitator of a beautiful
facilitator is a fair word.
Process, and
and they're a facilitator of their own things.
Yeah, and just walking in here today, just seeing the vibe of the people who work for you. There's respect, there's love, there's connection.
Yeah.
You're not some tyrant, or a business owner who's this overlord. You're just, and that's a rare thing.
I'm a very important piece in this call, but this.
And I thank you for that. And it's like we can either choose to be a facilitator of a process or to be the king of the process. And you might get similar results, but the feeling is going to be very different. The feeling when you go to bed at night and the feeling when they go to bed at night. When you're a facilitator or a king is very different.
Absolutely.
And they feel respected, appreciated, seen, and in American culture, people don't really feel seen, there's kind of a...
it's true. And everyone sees a lot in American culture. See, we always have this screen and we're seeing things. And so we have this strange relationship to media here that Europe doesn't have as much. Europe will lambaste someone quickly and everyone tends to unite. Now, I say that, and there was Hitler, there was Mussolini, there was Stalin. So we all have our issues. But for the most part, the media here is opulence. Yeah. And so I don't mind that. I'm not going to bash the media. It's just, you do have to have more of awareness. So I appreciate you seeing that because awareness does come from those moments alone. Yeah. You cannot always assume awareness in groups of voices. Yeah. You do need to hear yourself. And I sat there a lot. Had a little white dog with me, and I got to like 540 trips with her, of me and her alone out there. And I started realizing that's 540 at minimum times I sat there alone and went, oh, here I am again. What do you want, self? Yeah. And then you come back and you're like, oh, wow. I learned that from myself out there that I do talk too much. I am making more than I said I would. Yeah, that was a big issue for me is paying myself too much here compared to what the lowest end made. And I could go on. Yeah, my wife, I am not equally distributing the household work with my wife. Yeah, and then as I'm talking to myself, I'm like, well, she wants that from me. Why would I not give it? If your wife says, I'd like you to do this more often, and in return, I'll give you this beautiful feminine love, then do the fucking thing, man. Because that's a good way to complete who you are is the feminine spirit giving you a piece of themselves, or a partner giving you a piece of themselves. And that came from those moments of silence where, you want not, and it's a little schizophrenia for a while. You're first like, oh man, I don't love me. No, you don't love the narrative of your ego, and your ego's smart. You're smart in there. That's where your intelligence lies, is your ego. You're very smart. I can start a window cleaning business out of a garage. Yeah, but awareness is what to do with the money, and what to do with your business. That's awareness. What to do with the next move, calculated risks of going to Flagstaff. Go to Flagstaff, I better get it right. I'm not going to die on this capitalistic hill in Flagstaff.
Yeah.
Those motherfuckers will eat me alive. And you know that. Flagstaff will go, see ya.
Yeah.
I don't want your lame ass. So we'll go there when they want it, and when my employees say they want it, and there's money.
Yeah.
And that's the holy trinity of business.
Yeah.
And so, that awareness, I think, is very important. So thanks for noticing that, because awareness is earned.
Yeah.
It's a muscle, and you can flex it. And it's not, everyone has it. You know?
It's kind of like we were talking about Elon Musk. Very smart, not very aware, in my opinion. He's
the
totally
idea of
lack of
creating more
awareness.
kids for no apparent reason other than to work for me one day.
Yeah.
When, Donald Trump once said that he could go on Fifth Avenue and kill someone, it's interesting because that's a test of awareness in my mind.
Yeah.
You are literally looking around saying, is anyone aware? I'm going to say something so provocative that is about killing someone on Fifth Avenue. And he still got voted. That is a lack of awareness in the country.
Yeah.
And he and many other, and it tends to be men.
Yeah.
Plenty of women are evil, but the men tend to do this thing. And so awareness
is unregulated.
Yep, is seeing peripheral and understanding where the wind's going to blow and understanding the systems, and that comes for me from nature. And I have a lot to learn. I'll be out there, as much as I can be for the rest of my life in a wheelchair, whatever I got to do. I'll be out there.
Yeah,
I'll learn more and listen more.
There's kind of a cool poetry in the relationship of brewing. So you start a brewery, but the beer itself is really the elements of nature. You're taking barley and you're taking all these things and you're fermenting them, and it's like a glass of beer.
Yes,
in many ways represents hundreds of years of evolution of nature. And like this beautiful symmetry of ingredients, and so does food. There's a sacredness.
Yeast is a whole spiritual topic.
Yeah, there's like
magical things that are important to us that we'll never see, that are doing something, but you don't see them. So you have to actually understand that not seeing is believing. And beer is a prime example of, in a beer right now, poured from my tap, there are more cells in that glass than on Earth humans.
Yeah.
You have to buy into these large concepts when it comes to the artistic endeavor of things like brewing, and you go, huh? And you'll never see one of those yeast cells.
Yeah.
But man has created a microscope with those minerals.
Yeah.
And we can see them. So now you have a new relationship, which AI will bring us. You have a new relationship to understanding the further that you've seen. So just because we see yeast and understand what alcohol is, doesn't mean we've unlocked all the truths.
Yeah.
It just means the next step has happened and we've been revealed something, right?
Yeah.
And I love that about beer. I couldn't believe when I'm looking under, it's called a hemocytometer, and you're looking under the microscope, counting if the cells are alive or not. And Louis Pasteur in 1835-ish was the first to really understand and identify that, wait, hey, Germans, you've been wrong about God creating this. It's actually yeast.
Yeah.
They thought it was a magical God would just get, there's beer, it's done.
Yeah.
And yeast, again, guess what a yeast is? An organized around work. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You learn this a lot. That one of the reasons we're here is because things organize and work. And yeast, sorry to go off on this tangent,
no, this
but
is cool.
Yeast finds out how much osmotic pressure there is because of sugar. So malt grown at the farm up the road in the Verde Valley, where we get all our malt from, a whole different podcast. Malt has an endosperm in it that has a cellulose level, and then we make it think that it's growing by malting it. So it goes, I'm going to open, and then we're killing it, exposing the sugar. You couldn't even chew it open. That's how powerful nature is in that malt. So we malted it, opens a little bit, and this white powder comes out, and that's maltose. And that's what we're actually after when we are on a brew day. You smell it in a brew.
Yeah.
So that goes into a process where we get it ready for the yeast, and the yeast goes in and goes, all right, how much is there in here?
Yeah.
I'm going to grow based on how much osmotic pressure it is. Science, magic, whatever you want to call it. It's crazy.
It's cool.
But that's what is happening around us at all times. And then it goes through a growing process. just like humans, it's organizing around creating a balance. Then comes lack of balance, and it's creating alcohol, actually in a survival mechanism, because alcohol is a redox factor. Long story short, it gives them its final oxygen. And so alcohol isn't made for our pleasure. It's actually made in a survival mechanism for its own good. And the lessons you're learning from simple yeast is like, whoa, man, everything is alive, and these tables were made by somebody who collects trees after down trees. These tables have cellulose in them. Everything's alive.
Yeah.
And the beer, though I can't partake in alcohol because of my addiction issues, beer is this another gift to us as a lesson, a learning lesson of organization, creating something. Guess what? Though you can abuse it, and that, man, it's like, okay, here's another thing where if we don't learn to regulate, here we are, these maniacal dudes out there going crazy. And so I look at beer as this great guide again, this magic of yeast. It's floating around us. There's trillions of cells floating around us. But wait a minute, we can't see.
Well, every gift is an opportunity for self-control.
Yes.
And we human beings, we don't want to have self-control. We don't want to have limits. We don't want to bridle. We have free will, but unbridled liberty and lack of self-control is destructive. Another really cool thing about just fermentation in general, like wine, mead, beer, it's the oldest form of food preservation on the planet. And so you look at mead, you're taking honey, you're taking fruit. That peach is going to rot in a week and turn to nothing.
Right.
You turn it into mead and honey and you ferment it, it's going to last decades if you want.
It's another magic trick.
You're preserving calories. And so a lot of this, I was reading about mead in the Celts, and that it was actually just survival. They were just preserving the little food they had. So it was an act of preservation. Now through the...
Meat has a crazy amount of history.
Through the distortion of, human beings, we abuse alcohol and we turn it into something else. But really, it's actually a sacred way of preservation. You're taking a food source and turning it in a way that can be stored and last, and you're, back in some of these cultures, and you know far more about this than me, but, even in these really cold climates, like, it was literally survival. Fermenting these fruits that only grew for a small time, and they go through these long freezing winters where literally nothing's growing. They were drinking that. That was calories. That was their lunch. Here's 200 calories of, peach and honey and apple juice, that's fermented. And that's,
and remember the key here is these are harvests from the spring that are drank in the coldness of winter. And that's the universal truth about bread. And mead and alcohol, beer these are harvested in March generally around the world. Here it's earlier or later. For the most part, it's a spring harvest, and the hardships of winter, you have this caloric intake. And there is goodness in everything. There's goodness in all things. And so is it the fact that we are making mistakes, or it's inevitable that we will make mistakes? But learning from them's the gift. And here I am talking about a wilderness book after many mistakes in my life. And I've dropped the ball a lot. I don't even drink anymore because the mistakes, not, this isn't a reveal all. It's just I was becoming a dumbass. And here I have a second, fourth, fifth, 20th chance. And I think the hope for humans in all is remember the lessons can still be learned. And you still can bounce back and become the person you are supposed to be. You can still do that. If you're in jail, you can still come out and be who you are. And you have to look at everything as a lesson. And I would recommend the wilderness as the greatest lesson because it's the purest. When a beam of light shines through a translucent leaf, and you can look at the sun is the center of our galaxy, and it's shining a piece of light. I mean, this is stupid, right? If you really stop and think about it. And it hit a leaf. And we see it as a green leaf, but there's trillions of cells in that leaf. I could go deeper than that to quarks. I can go wider than the sun and say the universe. All of this stuff doesn't make sense. Bask in that light of not making sense and realizing it's not your job to know it all. Your job is to simply look at the leaf, find out what your relationship to the leaf is, and be that. My relationship to the leaf is the caretaker of the tree. I want to preserve that tree. And I really think that that's the most important lesson I have for people is your relationship to everything around you is for you to figure out.
Yeah.
Not your teacher, not your mama, not your papa.
Yeah.
It's you. And you got to learn. If you're married and you're struggling, well, it's your job to learn your relationship to your wife, not a podcast. You can help guide and give tidbits. And that's where the silence of wilderness is so impactful. I keep changing the subject to come back to this because you see, it's my gospel.
Yeah.
You will not know who you are unless you're silent. And you can, I love New York City. You can find rooms there and you can do this.
Yeah.
But upstate New York's nice.
Yeah.
The Virginian mountains and the West Virginia mountains aren't that far. Pennsylvania has Appalachia. That's a good place for you to go. In Arizona, though, you'll find the most diverse landscape. You'll be in saguaros.
Amazing, yeah.
And then pines and you know, your relationship to that sun, billions of light years away. You remember when I started with the podcast with what is art?
Yeah.
It was a void and something was created.
Yep.
Judgment's different. Judging art's different. Art is without judgment.
Yeah.
Well, then what is this? And this canvas we live on was nothing. It was a void. The universe was blank. And here we are, this artistic thing.
Yeah.
And so we are living art. And this is really special that we get to do this. It's just, without silence, I think we really, and I get caught up into it, and I get obsessed with this idea of whatever the idea is, capitalism, dominating this and being this wonderful thing. And then you'll find yourself out there and looking at that little sunbeam going, well, God, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There isn't anything.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Someone said to me once, we were talking about art, and he said, yeah, it's too bad I don't have enough money to enjoy art. I said, well, do you have enough money to fill your gas tank?
Yeah.
He said, yeah. I said, go drive 2 hours to the mountains and sit out. That's art.
If you have the means to do that,
if you have enough money to get in your car and drive to this mountain here, or go there, go in nature.
Right. And then listen to the desire. If your right hand says, give me a paintbrush, like those things in the silence are great because the camera wasn't, I don't know how the hell that showed up in my hands, but it'll find it, you know, and you'll find your own endeavor. Poetry is one of my favorite things to read because it's telepathic. The writer's got this emotion, and you're like, whoa, and Poe wrote this 150 years ago, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
You're able to be that art, but first you must be silent, and that's hard for some people.
Yeah.
Especially men, the louder we do this, the more tribe we have, and you think, hell yeah, I got a tribe. Oh, what about you? You know, and I always look at Trump and I say, man, if that guy ever got to know himself, wow, he'd be in for a hell of a doom loop, because yourself will start to realize, well, it's only fun if everyone else is enjoying it. That's what yourself will become. Yeah. If you can be out of your own way, and it's no joy if society isn't thriving and I am. What's the joy in that? You're going to be in a casket that's lined with gold. What does that do for joy? Yeah. And I could beat this. I could go on about this one, but I think if you have you don't have any money. This light is hitting here from the sun billions of miles away. Like, think about what I'm saying. And that's hydrogen and helium creating fission or fusion. It's crazy. Like, that is happening right now. And it's so immense and big, you wouldn't even understand it. You'll never get close to it because it would burn you up. Yet here it is. And it's this N terminus on this piece of glass. Tell me that's not art. That's special. And those moments are everywhere, and anyone can enjoy them. It just might need to step away from society because that's hard to enjoy when society is like, grow and get rich, grow and be something greater. Again, I'll just order Uber Eats. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll just be stupid with that money if I have too much of it. Who wants a fast car for a speed limit? You
can't even use it.
So I'm really learning now in myself that it's beautiful everywhere. Yeah. Every moment. There is no enemy. I really believe there's no enemy. I think that the boogeyman is real, and that's
the only enemy is within our own selves, and the voice that,
yourself.
Not knowing yourself
might be the enemy itself. Yeah. And if you want to make men better, my humble opinion is men need to shut the hell up, get out of their own way, and learn who they are through the silence.
Yeah, beautiful.
There's your one-liner.
I couldn't agree more, man. And I find in my life when I'm feeling stressed, whether it's family and business and responsibilities, the urge to just be in solitude in nature that's my reprieve, and
You've shared some secret waterfalls with me. Thank you.
yeah, and just
I'll get
finding
a text from him. It's like after some rains, and I'm like, where is that?
yeah. And that's key, and thank God, because people can turn to substance abuse, drugs and alcohol or whatever.
Dopamine's awesome.
And
right?
Numbing or just chasing the next high. And I think
is dopamine awesome when it goes away? No.
Yeah. And the only high that I think is okay to chase is the high of like nature, the high of the sunset, the high of the snowmelt waterfall, the high of that.
I like the idea of high because that's probably what the addiction was for me, is that high. But all we're experiencing is the chemicals.
Yeah.
That's it. We're not actually, something new is not happening.
Yeah.
And so when the system works, you will be high and you will be low. And so I appreciate that because it is a high. It's like, okay, I got to the spot. This cover shot means so much to me because Patrick was with me. I'm, one of the great business partners of all time.
Yeah.
Great philosopher. Have him on.
I'd love to.
He's connected to a Zen energy that I think is a gift. And his questions are way better than his answers.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the amount of, so consider, why do you, and you're like, shaking me up, man.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of answers. He had a lot of questions. He was next to me on this cover shot, and that high that I got from choosing the right weather, choosing the right light. I knew it had to be October. I knew it had to be a certain angle to hit the wall and light this is refracted light.
Yeah.
It had to be out of the river or the river would be dim. And so like, oh man, the high of getting it right.
Yeah.
And then handing out the highways, each folder of 90, they got to select. I put 10 to 15 photos each.
Yeah.
And when they chose that as a cover, imagine my feeling.
Yeah.
Pat was there knowing I did everything right. I had been on 600 trips or something like that. And this one was the cover.
I was going to ask you, like, how was that process? You probably had to surrender a lot of,
ego
and control because they selected all the photos and
This woman named Barb Denny, now Barb Baxter, she married a legendary photographer past couple years, Scott Baxter, great photographer. So it's cool that she married him. But her role in this book was, so Kelly Vaughn, senior editor, says, hey, I run the book side of things. There's going to need to be a designer. Okay. Putting stuff together, right?
Yeah.
Barb came out of retirement because she loved this project so much. Barb put a lot of wilderness books together, including things for Jack Dykinga and these legends of Tucson and the legends of Arizona. This is the same magazine that's worked with Barry Goldwater, Ansel Adams, Dave Muke, Joseph Muke. Like, this is a lineage that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I submitted photos to Barb, I hadn't met her yet. This relationship over, long distance was formed, and I just trusted her right away. I was very happy I trusted her. And there was one or two photos where I was a little like, hold on. And they wrote back, no, we're choosing this one. And in the long run, I just sit back and I go, man, aren't the best projects when you were just a part of it?
Yeah. Collaboration.
It was a collaboration, and so that what would happen for me if that photo is in there?
Yeah.
Would I be happier?
And there's a certain level of teaching of detachment that you have to have because
a lot of that.
Your personal experience was so wrapped up into each photo.
Pat was there. I could smell the air. The hike to get there through the junipers, which now burnt because of the fire.
The North Rim fire.
North Rim fire. That's all burnt now. And so I have a lot of feelings towards fire and what that is and what that represents and the regrowth. There's a lot attached, as you're saying, and emotions are stronger than words and feelings. And yeah, I am okay with it. I'm thrilled with it. And in the long run, this tree that created the book, I'll never know where the tree came from. That's a tricky question to try to find out because there's a big commercial enterprise behind this. Well, good luck trying to print thousands of books without commercial enterprise and a lot of trees. So there's a lot of things that I'm detached from the book, and you learn another valuable lesson of like, well, you're driving a car, you know how the fuck made it.
Yeah.
But that does happen in life, and this thing is beautiful, but nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
And there's another lesson for me. You just can't get it, everything. You can't. And Barb did a great job, and I'm just here to accept the end product is a lot of people's.
Yeah.
A lot of my company ran while I was out doing this. My wife was providing financially while I was out doing this, and she was emotionally providing for me as well.
Yeah.
That book is about a lot of things and people.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. You recognize that, you know?
Better.
Yeah.
That window cleaning business you were mentioning meant a lot to me. I didn't know it. I thought I don't know. I was filling the void with making money, but in the long run, man, there's nothing less exciting than cleaning windows. Dirt, clean. But, you know, I look back and I'm like, cleaning windows is a great way to, an analogy for life. You're just cleaning what's dirty. You're starting over, and then here comes the storm.
Yeah. So with your brewery, and just to kind of wrap up things, where do you mentioned you guys grow your malt in the Verde Valley, in Camp Verde area, right?
Yep.
And I was reading about the Sinagua malt and the low water usage. You have a conservation act there where you've been able to save a lot of water and grow your
through the
malt
Nature
there.
Conservancy.
Yeah, that's cool. So how'd that come about?
I emitted the signal in the Kickstarter video, the signal that I want to be a certain type of business, and I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But we still have it on. You know, Kickstarter won't take it down. I'm a little boy going, we want to be a brewery that
I got to go watch that.
Yeah.
I think I saw it years
and I say things that are better than I say now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird for a 29-year-old to say that. I want to be a table for the community where the farmer and the patron gets to mingle.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know what was going to happen. That's the funny thing. Now, in hindsight, I know how that was all going to come together. But I'm glad I said that. Sometimes you forget you said something really good, and you always have been good and pure, you know?
Yeah.
And so that beacon went out, and a lot of people said, okay, I know what this guy is about, and this business is going to be local. The easiest way to just throw it's like organic, you know, just throw it all out there.
Yeah.
But local is an easy way for people to understand that he wants to be local. And then 2017, I got a call from the Nature Conservancy, and they said, hey, we have a program where we want to switch Shield Ranch. We're at West Clear Creek. Let's talk about one of the greatest creeks in Arizona. It's the Verde.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Shield Ranch was their easement. Nature Conservancy buys things, gets a conservation easement, and only sells it when it's ready for the next generation to use that easement well. We have a plot where we want to grow some stuff. Watermelon was our first choice. People get confused why watermelon would be water saving, drip head irrigation versus flood. And we went down the list. Barley. It's a whole topic and a whole podcast. I won't waste all of the rest of our time here. But I said, yes, we need a malt house. Can't do it. So we sent it to Austin. You were saying you're in Austin. Blacklands Malt. Blacklands Malt's not far from Jester King Brewing, one of my dear friends in west of Austin, Dripping Springs. And Blacklands malted the first barley that Sinagua malt grew. This farm called the Hausers on Shield Ranch, which was at that time the easement, meaning you cannot flood irrigate this. It can only be winter rains, and this barley is going to go to beer. And so we make that first beer called Connection Saison, and it was great, but we did the load calc on carbon. We're like, we're not really saving planet Earth to drive things back and forth to Austin. And so a man showed up and said, I actually have the money to start a malt house.
Wow.
And Chip Norton started Sinagua Malt Company. So that farm now sends to that malt house where I explain that germination process.
Yeah.
And that magic of 2018, where now they're 90% buyer. We want other breweries to be involved, but the conscious decision isn't always accessible to your brain. And so for some reason, other breweries, just Dark Sky happily up in Flagstaff jumped on. Sedona Brewing Company proudly is one of our partners in Sinagua.
Nice.
They're a very conscious group. And so the 3 or 4 of us who use Sinagua all the time, what we're doing is we're saving 150 million gallons in the Verde. You know, it's a small drop in the, the pond, but 150 million gallons is small business doing its big work. And I believe in it. And I think we can grow the grain economy that way. So again, just to recap, winter rains are falling.
Yeah.
Come May, you don't need to flood irrigate from the river. The river stays so the riparian gets what it needs.
Yeah.
And this is one tiny farm. If we could grow this program, we'd have raging rivers again. But that farm harvests barley without needing that flood irrigation, and we get barley that is naturally grown on rainwater compared to alfalfa going to other countries for horse feed.
Yeah.
Which needs flood irrigation heavy.
Yeah.
And then the irony of all of that, the catastrophe of all that is if it monsoons on alfalfa, can't use it.
Yeah.
Huh? So you're saying
It's
that rains,
moldy.
we can't use it? Yeah.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, farming in Arizona is I always joke, it's a combat sport, you know?
Yeah.
Everything's trying to kill your plant. You know?
Yes.
It's like war.
Yeah.
The sun, the rain, the hail, the drought,
Yep.
the too much rain, not enough rain, wind. It's a wild, you know, as a farmer myself and being connected to the land, it's an adventure, you know?
Yeah. Well, tilling, are you still tilling?
No, not really.
Okay, because Regenerative Organic is another podcast, and so we support regenerative organic farms as well. Yadi Wang, you know, and Dax Hansen have the only regenerative farm, so we've got to go down that path as well. We make some beer with them, and that's a whole different topic of the wilderness of soil, the true nature of soil, and what regenerative means, and self-regenerative soil with you not doing shit, provides for the people. And so the next part of planet Earth and humans relationship is going to be regenerative. And every time someone talks about like, well, we need to be better, we need, you know, this kind of like platitudes, if you will, regenerative organic farming is the way to fix planet Earth.
Absolutely.
It is the wilderness of farming, and it's allowing the farm to raise itself. And then if you need a goat to come along and mow the lawn, that's okay. Then that goat can provide meat. If you want to eat meat, I love plants, but that goat can provide as well. So, oh my God, we have ourselves a fix. So what's the government going to do about it, man? And that's where we need to demand the government passes a farm bill that allows regenerative organic farming to get funding. Because if we don't do that, we're going to have a bunch of combines made in another country, putting farmers into debt. And we're going to buy their shitty corn for our ethanol. So...
one thing I'm happy about in the administration is Kennedy. You know, I think he's tapped into that, and I've met him and interviewed him a few times, and he really seems to be dialed into the need for regenerative farming and connection with the land and the awareness there.
These panels, people think I'm smart. I'm like, Yachty's next to me or some other farmer. I think Kennedy was going to come on to one, but they can't be seen together now because if Kennedy can remove himself from this administration, he'll be back to what we all saw. But this administration's like, tell him about fucking Tylenol. Okay. What about regenerative organic farming, my man? You're like, fuck Tylenol. Who cares about that topic as much as regenerative organic farming? But he does understand it. And I think
and one of the questions I asked Kennedy when he was campaigning as an independent for the presidency is, how do you see the connection of spirituality in the land? And he said, we need to have regenerative farms all over the country. Small regenerative farms and connection.
You know, that didn't happen. And now we're watching the crash and burn a little bit, and capitalism's at the center of it, blah, blah, blah. The same old story where one man says we're going to make you rich.
And it's interesting how they want to say that cows are the problem. But actually, when you do rotational grazing and regenerative agriculture in an intensive level, cows can actually heal the soil. You just have to keep moving them, you know, and that's what, you know, people think, cows are killing the earth and they're farting, creating methane gas, you know. And
cows aren't the problem. Is saying that cows should be affordable to every single person on planet Earth is a problem. And food is a trade. And an economy is a trade. We use Arizona grass-raised beef here, big believer in that company, and we use a group out of Portal called White Barn, big believer in that group. And I get to see the cows and touch the cows and see the earth that it's eating, you know, the grazing. And, you know, if you're not seeing your food at your local restaurant, what are we doing here? Small business is asked to do big tasks, but kiss the ground and common ground are two things that I think are a good wavelength. You know, and I hope the Kennedys of the world can get back. I hope Joe Rogan can get back to being the independent source that's not kissing the ring. Having to say stupid thing. Like, what are you talking about right now? We're talking about regenerative organic farming over here, and you're trying to cure autism through Advil. Like, okay, maybe that's a topic for another time, but right now there's big problems with farming. The farm bill needs, that is Congress. We need to talk about that farm bill. And when we're over here blabbing, you go, what's the distraction for? And Kennedy has it. And I hope we can get back to it, man. I do. I hope the next president can start talking about this outdoor nature. Like, don't tell me about mining the Grand Canyon like some ignorant fuck. Tell me about the Grand Canyon being accessible for all.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about uranium in there so we can build missiles. Tell me about people finding their truth in there. That's the person I want to hear from.
Yeah. Dude, I love it, man.
I'll wear you out.
I could talk to you for hours. I'm kind of roving, so I could go for 3 hours, but I know your time's limited, and so I really appreciate you
we make it hard for editors. That's my role.
Yeah. No, really great, and it's great to sit down with you and catch up, and I just think it's important for our listeners to see, the bigger picture. We could have sat down there and talked about, just beer, and we're
food,
talking
and
about
how the food system.
We're talking about the connection to everything, the symbiosis of like reality of wilderness and food and plants and sitting down and eating. Like we're human beings. We're always going to sit at a table and eat. But when we have awareness of where that food comes from and how it's made and all these things, it just becomes so much more meaningful.
Padre Quino brought a grain here that still lives today called Sonoran wheat. And
I love that little, I call it the wheat revolution. Yeah,
man, we
grow it every year.
Yeah, we have it on many parts of our menu.
I remember early on when I first met you, we were talking about like, let's do a collaboration and use our wheat, to do a wheat beer.
Yeah. And maybe we can get there one day. Yeah. Our brewery just grew, so we'll need more things.
Yeah. We got, I think we got about 11 acres of that wheat planted right now.
Is it organic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only way we can receive is organic, so maybe we should talk.
Yeah.
Because organic in Sinagua needs to be a certain thing, the malt house, so we could deliver it there, malt it, and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, brother. But you're doing a lot of great work, so I applaud you. Thank you for your consciousness.
More to do.
And there's more to come, man. It's the beginning, and your evolution, I can tell that you're committed to evolution. You didn't stay stuck and stay small, and you're evolving, and that's what we all need to do as human beings. An idea is a great thing, and you had an idea for this brewery, and the idea could have stopped or morphed into something, but it's morphed into something beautiful, and it's grown. Yeah. And I just applaud you for your awareness and the way you treat not just the planet and your awareness of wilderness and nature, but human beings. That's look. You treat human beings really well.
I think that's the only thing we're actually called to do. I don't believe that it's our job to save everything all the time. The sun will grow and destroy planet Earth. It's crazy. As much as I love wilderness, I think it's key that the other humans are as valued as you value yourself. Yeah. And the items you own. And man, it's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah. Just treat a human being good. It's the golden rule.
It's somehow it's the hardest possible thing because humans talk and they say things, they feel things. Yeah. And you got to learn to deal with that.
Yeah, but just through our conversation, like my takeaway is all this is cool. I'm going and taking these photos in the wilderness and braving the elements. But at the end of the day, like I know that you treat other human beings well. Yeah.
And I want them to have their own chance at this.
Yeah. So thanks, man.
I hate to be the only one that feels this way. I like everyone to understand this.
There's more, and we just got to keep inspiring and be the leaders and be the facilitators of that process and just treat the earth well, treat human beings well, and change the world, man. Much love, brother. Subscribe, like, share, follow. You know the routine. Thanks for listening.